Welcome to
She's strong
She's
and
Strong and
sassy.
Sassy. Now, if you want to smash your limiting story so that you can make a positive impact for yourself and people around you while having fun with other women, then She's Strong and Sassy program is definitely the training for you. We defined a strong and sassy woman as a she who knows her worth and who accepts her amazing imperfect self and is not afraid to use her superpowers to empower herself and the world while elevating others alongside with her own growth. So hello there, I'm Joy and I have Sassy Carol right here with me. Wave hello, Carol.
Hello.
So well, how time flies. Can you believe it is December and what a crazy, crazy world we have lived and survived. How are you feeling right now in this moment as we age towards 2021? And what are the precious gifts that 2020 has offered to you? Lessons that is most poignant to be learned in a year of pandemic. Welcome to episode 9, year-end reflection with She Pathway. Today, Carol and I are going to reflect on our year for wisdom and perspective just to gear up for 2021 using the 6 pillars from the She Pathway. So come join in our meditation for growth. Use the same questions to raise your own awareness. Inner evolution is only possible with self-awareness. So let's raise consciousness together. Let's start with our own. Let me share more with you about the She Pathway that we use in the Strong and Sassy program. The She Pathway is a useful framework for self-healing and empowerment, which is based on research and techniques from positive psychology, psychotherapy, and Cartesian framework. The She Pathway is based on the alphabets S, H, E. And the 6 pillars in the She Pathways are surrender, strength, help, hope, elevate, and execute. The first pillar is S for surrender. Now, we need to be aware of the limiting stories that we are holding on to and that we are acting out in real life. These stories can come in the form of disempowering beliefs about ourselves, in the world, or the people around us. Some are so deeply ingrained that it is tied to our identity. In my autobiography From Zero to Shakti, I revealed how I took committed and massive action to smash a 30 years old limiting story that I am unworthy and unlovable. Before I took action, that story was my identity for all of my teenage and adult life. Only when you are aware of your limiting stories, only then can you surrender your stories. And you cannot give up what you didn't know you have. And only by surrendering limiting stories can you stop that persistent internal war that you're having with yourself and perhaps with the world as well. And begin the first step into your own inner peace journey.
Yeah. And the second pillar is actually S for strength. A phoenix needs to die in order for rebirth to be possible. Only when you surrender your limiting stories to allow your old self and limiting ways to die can your new life begin. With rebirth, you can work on building up your strongest self, learning what your inner strengths are, and how to expand your external reservoir of support to raise yourself. By building up your strongest self, you are now ready to wire in strengths-based identity and more empowering beliefs about yourself and the world. When you are at your strongest self, you will naturally feel more empowered to work on supporting outer peace and compassion that the world needs. Because you started with your own inner peace first.
Indeed. And then comes the third pillar, which is H for helped. The sustainable and wise way to build on your strength is not just to work on your inner resources, but also to tap on the superpowers around you at the same time. Now, to ask for help is not a sign of weakness. In fact, it is a courageous act. It is an act of self-love. One defining factor as to why the human race has survived and thrived is exactly because we are phenomenal collaborators. We know the power of togetherness and we instinctively understand that the compound effect of teamwork. In fact, we are wired that way. We are wired for connection. An organic outcome of collaborating, reaching out to help another, accepting someone else's help is how we can collectively end up with more positive emotions and we build high quality connections. So with this upward spiral, only then inner peace is inevitable.
Yeah, and the fourth pillar is H for hope. With hope comes optimism, faith, desire, action, momentum, and consistency. Without hope, nothing happens. Dr. Rick Schneider, a pioneer positive psychology researcher who created the hope theory, he defines hope as the rainbow of the mind. I personally love this definition because it is visually arresting. Hope is an essential component in the pursuit for change. If we desire to have a peaceful world, we must wish for the change and have the expectation that it will come to pass. The more we work on healing and empowering ourselves, the more hope we will have. The more hope we have in our hearts, the more the notion of a peaceful world will not feel like an unreachable dream. With that inspiration, energy of hope, we will have the desire for a change that will get us to act. By walking the talk and talking the hope-filled action first, we can inspire others to do the same.
Yes. And the fifth pillar, which is the second E, which is for elevate. A life is not a sprint, neither is the journey towards a peaceful and compassionate world. A marathoner trains themselves for the distance and they incorporate very specific strategies to make sure that they can stay the course. Well, given that I am fresh out of a 11 days Vipassana meditation retreat, I definitely can relate to this, staying the course. Likewise, we also have to make sure that what we do for self-healing and empowerment for peace, the strategies that we use is sustainable. So how can we maintain that hope-filled action towards peace and compassion? And how can we use our strengths in a more enduring way? How can we make sure that the limiting stories don't come back to haunt our peace and compassion? There is this very beautiful quote by a running author called George Sheehan. He says the music of a marathon is a powerful strain, one of these tunes of glory. It asks us to forsake pleasures, to discipline the body, to find courage, to renew faith, and to become one's own person, utterly and completely. I interpret that as being one's best self by doing the necessary inner work for discipline and to then elevate ourselves with courage and faith and to do that with unconditional commitment. When you elevate yourself, you elevate the world. Peace and self-compassion is about elevating the world.
Indeed. And after you elevate yourself, the sixth pillar is the final E in the whole component, and that will be execute. We have to take action, right? After all that self-discovery, nothing happens if action is not taken. Action is not executed to bring to life what has been discovered and must be rectified. Right? To move the needle, we need to act. To take hope-filled action for self-healing and empowerment, action taken for self-care is inner peace and compassion. And as it has been shared in our entire chat here, inner peace and compassion is world peace. Inspire change by being the change, and inspire peace and compassion by being peace yourself.
I don't know how you're feeling right now, Carol, but just by, going through and reminding myself again what the 6 pillars are about, I really feel very energized and, very hopeful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually looking forward, to the new year. It's just gonna be next week. Next week, wow! It's yeah. I would say that it comes so quickly. The whole year just ended pretty quickly, and I'm actually feeling very hopeful. One of our 6 pillars here.
Yes, one of our pillar. Yes, I think hope-filled action is really, I think the intention for the year ahead. So let's start our reflection based on the Chi pathway. So, Carol, it has been a challenging year for everyone. What kind of limiting stories did you discover that was hindering your performance and well-being in such a difficult time? And what kind of surrendering did you have to do to be your strongest self? This is our first question based on Pillar 1, surrender.
Yeah. Well, for me, I finally discovered being perfect is a myth. I realized that I have been living my life trying to be perfect, the perfect person, the perfect wife, the perfect mother, the perfect daughter, the perfect friend, and realize even though I say that and I share that with my clients, but I still set a certain bar for myself to try to be that perfect being, and realize that being perfect is really a myth. That it's actually this unnecessary burden that I'm putting onto myself, and realizing that I'm only human. I'm allowed to to make mistakes. I'm allowed to feel. And the next thing would be being surrendered to being in the moment, throughout the entire year. And for the past 2 years before that as well, I realized, thinking back, I have been going through my life, like sometimes on autopilot, because this is what are the things that needs to be done. I am living my life checking off the to-do list, and then having going from one place to another, just going through the motion, and then not literally being present and being in the moment to realize, hey, I'm doing something. I am creating some kind of a change. And also being the perfectionist myself, I like to have a lot of control. Not just being perfectionist, I'm also a control freak. And having control is something that allows me in the past to feel that I am being strong. And not having control seems like a weakness to me. And then this year, due to the pandemic, I realized that allowing nature to take its course has its advantages. Yeah, sitting there, waiting for things, to fall into place. Sometimes not being able to let go actually brings in more than I actually expect. Yourself, Joy?
Wow, that's interesting. So, yeah, when we talk about perfection, I guess all the conversations we had in the Strong and Sassy episode with other women leaders was really helpful, I guess, in driving our own meditation on self-compassion and the kind of relationship that we're having with ourselves and what can be done and how it can be nurtured further. I'm really glad to hear all your observations about yourself. That's a really powerful. I think, yes, we should very mindfully choose where possible, progress over perfection. And even this control, my gosh, I can so relate to you. I used to tell people in the past that I'm a Virgo. I need control. I need perfection. Everything must be in order. And I had that. And I keep saying that, but you have to be careful what you're saying. I stopped saying it some time now, but that was what I always say in the past. I'm a Virgo. I need everything in control. I need to know what's 10 steps ahead before I take the first step, right? And so this surrender piece, first pillar is really very deeply meaningful to me. But I also think the first pillar, surrender, is very deeply meaningful for all women. That's why it's this first pillar, because women, you can't control everything. You need to learn how to let go. And I think the beautiful thing is there is some kind of grace that happens when you learn to let go, learning and developing the wisdom to know when you need to take action and when you need to let go, right? Having that wisdom and that grace, which is something that I'm also working on myself constantly. So As for me, in terms of the first pillar of surrender, I think when the pandemic came, I went on fight mode. You know, you can choose fight, freeze or flight. I definitely went on fight mode. Like it was like a knee jerk action, it was reflex action, because I have always been a fighter all my life. Given that I lived on my own even before I turned 21 to be independent. So I took comfort in action. And I'm very used to action. So I had all these plans about how to redirect my work in the pandemic. And I think everyone knew I set Facebook Live on fire because I even have some friends who nicknamed me as Miss Facebook Live, which was not really a nickname that I enjoyed, but apparently that was how often I was on Facebook Live. I think at one point I was on Facebook Live for like 6 times a week. It was insane. And I was just trying to support other people with positive psychology tips. And it was until supporting others' well-being affected my own well-being. And so because of the burnout, I had to back off. And I was also triggered. I was triggered by the limiting story that only action can solve the situation, because that was, how I was conditioned. And in this pandemic, my own well-being did not matter. I must support others with the knowledge that I had the privilege to learn. So this was a very strong voice in my head, and I pressed on. But when the burnout came, then that was when I learned to surrendering the sense of panic and urgency that was driving me every day, that was pushing me to do so many Facebook Live, and surrendering to the idea that I was invincible, and I can go on and on without replenishing myself. So that was when I created the 2 days meditation and silence retreat at home to celebrate my birthday in September. Right? I remember, like Carol, you mentioned something that sparked something, reminded you to do self-care as well. Yeah, and in fact, as we speak today, I just wrapped up my very first Vipassana retreat, 11 days retreat, just fresh from it. It's kind of amazing for me, actually. Like only this morning, I was, locking myself in my bedroom, as I have done in the past 11 days, doing my 4 hours morning retreat part 1. I was just doing that this morning, and then here I am dressed like that, for this recording and, doing my work. So it's like, wow, pretty amazing life I'm having. So I think that by surrendering, I became so much more powerful right now. I retreat, I took one step back, and I decided to place priority on my own self-care for a change, instead of being fixated with taking care of other people. Now, because of all this action that I have taken, all this corrective action, I feel very powerful in my core. I feel a sense of solidness and certainty that I'm really very grateful to be ending my year with. So it's been a good year, at least right now, where I'm feeling maybe it's just the 11 days meditation power. Who knows? I'm feeling really good despite it being a pandemic year. And I'm really cognizant of actually there was a lot of gift and blessings that came during this year. If you just stop staring for a moment at the pandemic and just treat it like any other year, because in any year, in any day, there's always some kind of misfortune, disaster, and event, right? It's not like only unique to this year. Actually, we have it all the time. So I think we also need to kind of put it in perspective. So the second pillar is strengths, the second S. So basically the She pathway has 2 S, 2 H, and 2 E. And the first 2 pillars are S. So pillar 2 is strength. Carol, what are the new strengths that you discovered about yourself this year? And what strengths are you focusing on for your 2021 plans?
Wow, this one strength that I would say rediscovered about myself. Yeah. And the things like somehow for me, I know this, I can say I know it's actually not on the back of my head, and then this is something that I need to do, but then being able to reconnect with it, having this renewed sense is incredible. And I totally agree with you earlier when you say, it's like after being able to surrender. And for me, this whole year, the whole pandemic, it didn't. It took a toll somehow in the beginning because there's a lot of uncertainty. But then I look at it and say, hey, what else can I do, um, other than just wallowing in negativity, because I can't stay in that situation. Then this whole thing allowed me to have a renewed sense of belief that things happen for a reason, believe that I'm actually called upon, and it's perhaps there's something that's being called upon, to allow human race to actually slow down a little bit. For me personally, I got reconnected emotionally with my husband. We were able to have more time to really sit down and talk things through. And in the past, for the past 6 years, because we have kids, I don't have any live-in help. So it has always been, trying to just get things done. I'm always on this trying to get things done mode, checking off the to-do list, as I mentioned earlier. Then I have more conversation with my children, which I appreciate even more. And also being reconnected to the words, trusting the magic. Yeah, it was told to be by this friend of mine. She is very inspiring. She said that everything that we do, we are creating magic. The magic of building memories with our family, the magic of hope, right? Looking forward in terms of what we want, in our life and what we want to achieve in our life's journey. In terms of like achieving our purpose. For some people who are more spiritual, where they want to be in terms of their faith. And then once you have that belief, then the next thing is to trust the magic, that it will happen to you, and you yourself have the responsibility, in fact, and also the power to create this magic within you. And then what would I be focusing on for year 2021 would be kindness. It's actually one of the strengths. This is the word that we all know, right? To execute kindness. We're always told to execute kindness, towards others, outwards. But throughout the whole Strong and Sassy episode, as we engage more in a conversation with other women, other empowering women, I realized that, in particular, the episode in particular that says self-compassion, it really, really hit me that, am I actually being kind to myself? Have I been kind to myself all along? Right? So that is something that I really want to focus on. Kindness is the strength I want to focus on for year 2021. Being kind to myself first, going through the She pathway, and then being filled with peace, then I can actually go out and to share this peace and then to serve others.
Beautiful. I keep hearing and reading about this, that this year, after the dust settled and the panic subside, people are starting to appreciate. I see the blessings in this year in a pandemic, and connection, time to connect with people who matters the most to us, keep popping up. And I thought that it was really one of the deepest blessing of this year. More people are connecting to one another. Having said that, there are also a lot of relationship going into pieces because suddenly they have to spend so much time together, and they realize that everyone has changed, everyone has evolved, or that no one really get along anymore. So it really, I think it doesn't matter what is the outcome, whether relationships are in pieces, because if it's no longer authentic and meaningful, then I think it's a good thing to have that reality and to accept that reality. So whatever the outcome, is it like a deeper connection this year? Or is it the realization that my relationship doesn't work anymore? I thought that it's such a gift for all these people who has benefited from such realization this year, which if it was not a pandemic, it could be, it might not have happened. It could be everyone just go to work as usual and we're doing the same routine and we are just locked in our habitual lifestyle. We have no time to connect. So so nice to hear that this is something that you have also experienced in this year, that deeper connection with your family, with your loved ones. And I also love to hear that kindness is the strength that you're going to emphasize on, because moving forward, Super Pack tagline is actually showing up as your strongest and kindest self. So Carol, I know why we're in partnership now, like even with conversations that we never had, we're clearly in alignment. It's just so beautiful. So as for myself, for strengths, I think first and foremost, like obviously the meditation retreat, you're probably going to hear me talk about it a lot in this episode because I'm fresh like graduate from this morning. Um, this is something that I wanted to do for some years now. 1 year I couldn't because my dog was diagnosed with brain tumor, and then the next year I was shuttering between two countries. I couldn't do it. And year after year, I couldn't do this Vipassana meditation retreat that I always wanted to do for my birthday. So this year I decided, pandemic or not, I'm going to do it online or face to face. I don't care what version, I'm going to do it. But the truth is that even though it was something I wanted to do for some years, I was not sure, confident that I could survive it because 11 days of meditation. I'm not a seasoned meditator. That's no joke, no small feat. But so even though I took a partial online option because of work and family commitment, even then it was still a 6 days, 6 hours of daily meditation on top of family duties, work commitment, new puppy and all that. I think it was a grueling 11 days for me, right? It felt like every day I was living 2 days in one day. So, but then here I am. I mean, I just graduated this morning from the retreat, but here I am, fresh from my 11 days meditation and ready to do this recording, and I've nailed it. That is my very first retreat. Oh my gosh. So I think just this alone, I learned that I am more resilient than and grittier than I thought in my mind, right? My own self-image. And I meant to also work on the strength of self-regulation and discipline with this retreat. And I believe that has come to pass as well. I do feel stronger, and I mean, to sit there for 2 hours first thing in the morning for someone who generally don't do that for 11 days is not a small things. I guess you have to have discipline to not want to get up and just go back to bed because it's right beside me, right? So and well, I have not done that at all, so that's amazing. So for the new year, I think that in 2021, alongside with the Heartation training that I will be giving, I want to work on the strengths of mindfulness, self-compassion, and heart-brain alignment, because that's exactly what the Heartation training is about. So I want to work on that even more for myself. And with the Heartation vision of igniting 1 million hearts on fire, and the goal of igniting the first 5,000 hearts in 2021, the strengths of service, legacy, and mission will definitely be activated in full force. So I'm very excited about the new year with the new Heartation framework, and with the very fact that Heartation came because I took one step back and did self-care, and along the way, accidentally developed the Heartation framework because that was what I was doing for myself with my family, and it works. And then I'm like, hey, why am I keeping this to myself? We need to share this. So it's really exciting to have so much to look forward to, and I can't wait to ignite that 5,000 hearts in 2021. So would that be your heart as well?
I can see the excitement from here, definitely.
Yes. Yeah. And one of the biggest, I get a lot of good ideas and clarity during the meditations that, after a meditation session, I always have to quickly jot down. I have like sticky notes on standby beside me, like all the things that came, and I want to quickly jot down so that I don't forget them. And I also got a lot of clarity. And I would say after the retreat, one thing that came with so much more clarity and certainty for me was really the Heartation framework, that yes, this is what you're meant to do and this is what you have to do, but you need more specific. So what the download that came was that in next year, work on the first 5,000 hearts. So then I was so excited when I felt that thought in my head, right? Because it's a very specific number right now. So I was like, oh, wow, first 5,000. Okay, let's go. And I could feel all the excitement. I have to like calm down. You're still meditating, But you see, like, wow, so powerful when you make time to take care of yourself. You get so much clarity. So it's almost like I was worried that I was taking so much time every day doing the meditation when I should be doing my work, all those voices come back again and then like nag. I say, no, let's finish this. Even if it's a waste of time, let's just finish wasting the 11 days time and I go back to it. Because I don't want to give up some things halfway and I really want to do this for so many years. So I said, let's just do it one time. Even if it was a mistake, let's complete the mistake, So that's the stubbornness that it's a part of me. But then after the whole thing is over and then I reflect back, so I keep thinking, I keep wondering, especially the first few days, the first half, right? Am I wasting time? Is this a waste of time? Because, it feels like I'm sitting there doing nothing. And then now looking back, I'm like, no, I got so much good ideas. And in fact, I am so much clearer about what I want to do in the new year, even before 11 days ago when there was still some confusion and very vague about certain things in terms of work direction. But then like I spend so much time, I have no time to do much work. This is my first work since the retreat. And yet I come back, I know exactly what to do. So it's almost like I finally understood what it means when I heard of this saying before, and I always like, it doesn't make any sense, not rational, not logical. What does it mean? And I felt like now for the first time in my life, I understood what it meant to go slow to go faster.
Yeah, it's kind of like you by the way you describe it, kind of like, it's like an arrow. You have to pull it back in order to launch. Right? So this is actually what is the feeling I'm getting from you right now.
I think it's like you need to take time to, I think, who was it who said you need to sharpen the saw? You cannot just keep doing stuff. You need to stop. You need to make time. It's not a waste of time to sharpen the saw, but in our today's mentality, who have time to sharpen the saw? I have so many things to do. I have to-do list. I need to check things in my to-do list. I don't even have time to sleep. You want me to sharpen the saw? I think we have a little bit of that mentality going on. So, which is, I guess, also explain. I had all those questions in my head. Am I wasting time sitting here doing nothing? I know when I could be, doing my work. So I trying to sharpen the saw, but I keep wondering, am I wasting time sharpening the saw? But I feel so much clearer and Carol, you mentioned when we came into the studio that I look a bit different.
Yeah.
And it's like I can't explain it. I'm the same and I'm different, and it's hard to explain. I'm same old me, but I'm not the same. I feel upgraded. I feel more solid and peaceful, and I feel the core of myself. Like very hard to explain feeling. So, but on the surface, I guess I'm the same person. But I think that when it comes to strengths in this pillar, definitely meditation and the retreat has helped strengthen me overall as a person, evolve me so that I'm now truly, truly ready for my new year. Yay! So with surrender, when you are willing to die, right, like the phoenix, then now you're ready to have your rebirth, as Carol shared earlier about the second pillar. And now you're ready to build your strength, to discover yourself. Who is this strength-based Joy? Who is this strength-based Carol? How does she look like? Get to know this person, build this person, be a baby again and learn to walk, but this time in a stronger and a smarter way. So once we have done those two pillars, now it's time to move on to the third pillar. And now we're moving into the 2H. So for the third pillar, the H is help. A huge piece for women because we like to just conquer the world all by ourselves, juggling everything, making sure nothing fall off the plate. When once in a while, it's okay, to pass the plate to someone else. You don't have to keep holding on to the plate, okay? It's okay. So the reason why I created this pillar help because I felt it really, really is a very important piece for women. We need to learn. We actually need to learn to ask for help. So Carol, for you, where and how did you seek the help that you and the support that you needed this year? And did you notice any kind of resistance in yourself when it comes to reaching out to others for support?
Well, there was in fact some resistance. Well, because I always have that internal conversation, right? I can do this on my own. I don't want to trouble others. It's just fear of troubling others is really kind of like stopping me for asking for help. And then sometimes I would say, okay, I would try it on my own, and I realized that okay, the learning curve is a little bit steep. then maybe asking for help is actually the right way to do. And I realized during this whole pandemic, for this year, is, seeking help from the closest, the family, is actually very, very important, because it is a show of trust. You trust in them to be delivering it for you, and also the trust in ourselves to be able to let go, and understanding, having this awareness that I cannot do everything. I'm not invincible. And the realization came is when I just asked for something very, very simple. Hey, do you think you can watch the kids for a while so that I can actually do some work? Very, very simple stuff. I asked my husband. He was like, okay. And before making that request, I was thinking, what would he say? He's like, oh, I'm also busy myself. It's like, and I have this conversation, or this scenario being played in my head. It's like, okay, look, I'm busy myself. Don't you think you can do this after the kids are in bed, for example? And I was also asking myself, maybe I could actually rearrange my timetable. Then I can do this after the kids are in bed, so I really have time to myself. Then I realized, like, hey, no, in time after the kids are in bed, the time is actually with me, right? Yeah, I'm entitled to my own me time. This is actually how I come. Just like your meditation, every day you come to yourself, you get grounded, and that's what I do in the morning and also in the evening. And then I also want to have that space and that time after the kids are in bed, to spend time with my husband and ask about his day. I don't really need to provide solution. Yeah. And that made me realize that seeking help from the closest, which is our family, it's very, very important. It's a sign of trust, and it's also, a step forward, because once we surrender, right, we know what our strength. If you know that your strength is actually not in this particular area, then it's okay to seek help. And then help, to me, that I realized for this year, is actually a strength. Asking for help is a kind of strength for me.
Yes. Definitely, it's an act of self-love, and I always say asking for help is a courageous act. It's not that you're a loser if you ask for help. We are not we're not meant to live alone in an island all by ourselves. We are meant to collaborate. We have always been collaborating, and if you look at Mother Nature, Mother Nature shouts collaboration. Right? Look at the bees, the flowers, right? The pollen. If there's no bees, then game over.
Yeah.
How are the flowers going to transport stuff by themselves? The flowers can't move, like how is that going to work? So we need to help and collaborate each other, and there's a reason why we all have very different superpowers. Our combination of superpowers are different, and so fun, isn't it, that we're all different and gifted in different ways. So we must tap on the superpowers around us, giving ourselves permission to do that, to tap on other people's superpower. Don't be selfish. Don't just keep using your own. Other people love using their superpowers too. And when I think when we ask for help, also we give people the pleasure of helping us, right? Because research have actually shown that the giver gets so much more pleasure and satisfaction and positive emotions than the receiver. That's the reality of things. So give people the opportunity to experience that for themselves as well. And I love how, Carol, you kind of really demonstrated how the pillars are really interrelated and they're intertwined. Like by surrendering this limiting story that I'm invisible, I must do everything by myself, then now you're able to have the mindset to ask for help. But if you're unable to surrender your limiting stories, you can't even go to that stage, because you're not in that mind frame where you think that asking for help is okay or acceptable, right? You will not allow yourself to ask for help. By surrendering and by recognizing you have your own strengths, other people have their own strengths, then now you're more receptive to the idea of, I can ask for help and I can give help too, right? Being open to the idea that there is some kind of interchange of energy and support, and we don't have to do everything by ourselves. Then it will be a shame, because we can do so much more together, and we can grow and evolve so much better together. So as for myself, in terms of the help pillar, I think I because of the burnout, I went within myself first. So for me, maybe it's a slightly different situation. I'm an introvert, and because of all that incessant Facebook Live, and always people are always in front of my face, and the psychological strain really of being on Facebook Live, being on live video. It doesn't even matter if there's anyone there. It psychologically will have an impact, especially for an introvert. So I think for me was the help that I need was, hell, I need to go back to myself. I feel like, lost and fragmented, doing all this Facebook Live that was very, very straining and very energy dissipating for me, actually. So I guess what I really wanted and needed was to be left alone. And so when I finally recognize and accept that I was having a burnout, and I need to take one step back, and I need to now refocus on my own self-care instead of taking care of other people's well-being. I think when I finally gave that to myself, it was great, because it was the peace and the quiet that I needed to recharge. Right, the Facebook Live was starting to make me very agitated every day, and I was wired up, right, to gear myself up to perform. And so it was almost like Carol going back to my dance performance days, except that I love dancing, right? So it's actually like really very different. But then going on video, doing presentations aren't necessarily the things that spark me in general. So it's very different from dancing. So then after reaching out to my peers and to my seniors to ask for advice, was that help piece when it comes to external help piece. After going within, then I reached out to some of my peers and seniors, asked for advice. So I don't really have much resistance. So I think I was quite lucky in this instance. The only resistance I felt was the pressure to know it all, because I'm teaching positive psychology. I should already know what to do instead of troubling people. And I think like all of us, coaches, trainers of any discipline, probably will feel some of that. Like, what are you asking other people? You teach this stuff, what? Like we always, and the really funny thing, so thank goodness this was a relatively small voice, so I could ignore it quite easily. So this is a really exceptional case where the voice wasn't very loud. But I was cognizant that the voice was there even when I approached my peers and my seniors, but because I feel safe with them, I guess. So even though the voice was there, I still did it anyway. They were I'm not sure. There might be some people that I would have approached if this voice didn't exist, but maybe I didn't feel as close to them. Because this voice exists, I didn't approach them. So I haven't really thought about that. So it just pops up in my mind. But I think that's very possible, because I have this voice say, oh, this is my public image and so on, and I shouldn't be asking people. I should know it all. But then the funny thing is, recently during a gathering in my positive psychology circle, we were sharing our private life, and something similar popped up. So this is a mother who's trained in positive psychology, and she tries to use it. She's a teacher, I believe, and she also tries to use it with her teenage children at home. They talk about strengths and gratitude and stuff like that. So she was joking how sometimes her teenage boy would be like, don't do that strengths things with me, huh? Don't do it. I know where you're going with this. So it's kind of like funny, and then sometimes also this mother beat herself up in her mind, saying that, hey, I'm trained in positive psychology, I should know what to do in this instant, and so on and so forth. And so during this reunion with our lecturer for our postgrad, we were all laughing about it. And our lecturer was reminding us, hey, you know what? At the end of the day, yes, we're trained in this, but guess what? We are human. We are as human as those who are not trained in positive psychology. You know everything doesn't mean that you have to be perfect. See, we're coming back to that again, right? This sense of like needing to match up to certain expectation. We're all learning every day. So doesn't mean that you know something means that you can't. You must always meet that standard, and that would be really exhausting. So I guess for me, when it comes to the help piece, is I was able to reach out to my circle, close ones, for support, and I'm Just wondering about other people, Carol.
Yeah.
How well were people able to use this pillar this year? I mean, because it's a pandemic, isn't it? I think this pillar and the next pillar is especially significant. I think in a time like this, the willingness to ask for help. What do you think, Carol?
Well, as you mentioned, for me, what really sprung out in my head was, going back and forth, because for me it's because I like you, right? This little voice also, just a little one, that's also say, you should know what you should do, right? Because you are a coach, you should be able to have you have the tools to be able to apply onto your clients, right? And then you should be able to apply onto yourself. And then there's always this slight pressure, slight, very little, that I need to be better than my client. And then that, for me, it brought me back to our second pillar, the surrender. Because this is something that I think I want to share with the audience today. It's like, yeah, the shift power is S, H, and E, and we double up, right? The first two pillars is S, and then the third and the fourth will be the H, and then the fifth and the sixth pillar are the E's. But it doesn't mean that, okay, this is actually a process. It doesn't mean that you can't actually go back a step or a few steps, and
Yes.
then you start. There isn't like a specific rule that you have to go
Yes.
through one, and then when you are stuck, and that's it. You can't progress. And from what you have just said, for me is, yeah, if I have this little voice, that I can't seek help, then surrender to it, having the realization, and then after that, then you ask for the help, and then move on. And then sometimes, for me, during the process, I do jump back and forth between the SH and the E's.
I love that you brought that up, Carol. I think that's a very important point indeed. The six pillars are not sequential. It's just in general, in general, it's good to do your surrendering. Then now you're ready to rebuild using your strengths. But these are all guideposts for you. So you need to use your own intuition and your own wisdom. Practice self-compassion to ask yourself, in this moment, which pillar should I address? Which pillar can support me in this moment? So it's really just guidelines. At the end of the day, you have to trust your own instinct.
Yeah.
So now that we've talked about health, I think it is the right time to now talk about hope.
Yes.
So Carol, what hope kept you going in this crazy pandemic year? And what hopes do you have for the new year?
I'm an optimist. I choose to see things in a positive way. I just don't like to say it negatively. So hope has been there right from the beginning. To the extent that I thought that this whole COVID situation is going to be just like a month kind of a thing, and it will not last us that long, possibly. I mean, based on the current announcement, that it could actually last, for another year or so. And I always have this little hope that things would be okay, things would be fine. So for Singapore, when we enter the lockdown, they call it the circuit breaker here, that it's going to be just for a while. Everybody's like, oh my god, this is not happening. And for me, it's like, oh, that's pretty cool. And what can I do what can I make out of this situation? So that hope that things will get better has, I just kind of shadowed me, and then just pushed me along the way. Yeah. And also it helped me to reframe my mind, to be able to see and then to re-strategize what's going on. Because once you have the hope, then, because when you have the hope, as we mentioned earlier, we can actually look forward towards our journey. Then if that's the case, then your mind will start to open up and start to think, okay, what can I do to propel myself forward? What can I do to take the next step? And actually plan, because I realized that with that hope, I have a goal to reach. And during this whole pandemic situation for the year 2020, I was able to do more courses and learning, just like what you just did. I did some short ones, just things that I wanted to do, but I thought, maybe I'll just do it in another time. And I used that opportunity to get that done. And then for me, 2021, it will have to be a year of selfishness giving away to selflessness. Okay. Yeah. Because as I say, what I hope for going forward for year 2021 is actually with kindness. And then in order to be kind, you have to be selfless. So, and then this year, because of the pandemic, a lot of people used to be selfish, for the lack of a better word to describe. People who were a little selfish, about with themselves, selfish with their time. People started to expand. This is what I've observed. And then as we expand, then you become more selfless. And then with hope being the one that is leading us, leading me. And I see that there will be a lot more selflessness coming for year 2021.
Mm. I think that people need support, even in the new year in 2021. People will still continue to need support. So what I know with positive psychology definitely can support people at the moment. So that hasn't changed, that sense of responsibility to give back to society, what I have the privilege to learn. That this knowledge keeps me going. Even when I was feeling so burnt out, I was still constantly thinking about how can I find better and more effective ways to do things, and how I can reach out to more people. So I think with the Heartation training that we'll be launching in the 2021 is exactly that. The answer to how to support people to be self-sufficient in maintaining their well-being and peak performance. So I would say that I'm bursting with hope and vision and dreams for people with the launch of Heartation. And the very fact that Heartation really came out of my own caring for myself, and came out from meditation, getting more clarity about where I'm going with this. It really gives me a lot of hope, and it's a very specific, and it's not vague, it's a very well defined hope, right? Okay, what is the vision for Heartation, right? We want to ignite 1 million hearts on fire. That's very clear, right? There's nothing iffy about it. And so what I'm going to do in 2021, and then during meditation, it came to me in 2021, you're going to ignite 5,000 hearts, the first 5,000 hearts. I mean, what not to be hopeful about it, right? It's clear, there's a vision, and it's very specific. And Heartation itself is a training program. The core components, which we call jewels of joy, is very specific. What are the 4 jewels that we'll be teaching you? So because of that clarity, I think when it comes to the hope piece, what I have learned from my own experience is that when you have clarity, that is another propelling factor to build hope. So I am thinking that we should also be mindful and incorporate more of that. How can we support to give people more clarity so that they can really bring that hope can really come alive, that hope will be very clear in their hearts. How do we, with our Strong and Sassy program, can inject a bit of more support in that area, helping people to build clarity around their hope. How does your hope look like? What is your hope pathway, right? Like the hope pathway, a term that is coined by Professor Snyder. How can we help people to build that hope pathway? So it's exciting. So we're not just talking about hope like, something very vague, something that is not tangible. No, we will be teaching you how to concretize your hope so that it's very real, it's very specific, and it will put you on fire.
Yeah. And there you go. This is an act of selflessness as well, because you will only take someone, with the heart to serve, the heart to give, and be selfless to be able to support others.
Yeah. I'm just curious about this word, selfless. I think when you recognize that we are all one and we're all interrelated, right? We humans with one another, and we humans with the nature. When you realize that you're all interrelated, what I do ultimately does affect you, and vice versa. When you think about it that way, actually, there is no self, right? If you think about it, selfless, because it's just us. There is no self. Self is something that perhaps humans created with our ego So maybe the original state is selfless because there is no self. It has always been us, but then along the way, we became very self-centered and there was no more us. I think it's perhaps time to go back to basic, right? Being selfless, because that perhaps might be the original state for human beings.
I agree. So yeah, exactly. So I think 2021 will be a year of reset as well.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to our fifth pillar, and that is the elevate. So with Carol, with a pandemic going on, and at one point we were even on lockdown, how did you still execute your plans this year? And what kind of execution are you working on for the new year?
Wow. Well, it has been a bit of a steep learning curve for me in the beginning. That would be, first of all, going online and to be open to explore other avenues and resources that's available to me, right? Well, I really, I salute and applaud you that you really inspire me in terms of going online like 6 times. I couldn't. But the thing is that I thought that, again, back to the one being selfless. It's like, what can I give? What can I give? Am I able to step out of my comfort zone so that I can benefit others? So I started out this weekly live show that I talk about. In fact, during the whole pandemic and during the lockdown we did in Singapore, that was actually in June this year. Yeah, just to share some resources, no agenda, nothing at all. And then with that, we get connected, and then things start to happen. And then I remember we did the Fun Fest in July. And then, we started with this Strong and Sassy show. Realize that once you put your heart out there, and then to elevate yourself first, to give, and then things started to happen. And then, it creates a ripple effect, in fact. And so this is actually here we are today. And as you said earlier, how to actually to elevate further, then the kind of execution I will be working on for next year is really, as you said, going back to the basic and starting small, taking baby steps. Yeah. Because in the past, it's like, yes, you dream big, but you need to take baby steps in order to get to your destination. I just saw this book on the shelf of the bookshelf at popular bookstore in Singapore just a few days back. The Power of Small. That's the title. The power of small is huge. Even though it sounds like an oxymoron, the power of small is huge, because Rome is not built in a day, right? We take baby steps, and it's the same thing for us, taking little baby steps, to reach that huge destination, which is, the peace, and how we are actually elevating ourselves even further, for us, for people that we love. What about you?
I think in terms of execution this year, well, I was perpetually on Facebook Live like a maniac. So also there was more collaboration with other experts to keep the work going. I think in the new year, the execution will primarily be focusing on building Heartasian community, launching the 1 Million Hearts on Fire vision, and designing programs that can reach out to people with every kind of budget so that no one is left behind. So that is one of the takeaway during the meditation, was that it did, I felt like it was impressed upon me that yes, this is work and this is business, and definitely it has to make profit. But I feel a sense of responsibility to also have to be creative and innovative to ensure that no one is left behind. What about the people who can't afford it? What about the underprivileged communities? And of course, in particular, underprivileged women, how can I still support them with Heartasian? So that is something that is I will be looking into as well. And again, there is clarity because I already know how to address that. So it's really exciting because I have very specific, concrete plans and programs. They interrelated. They they serve slightly different purpose, and they will leave no one behind. So I'm excited to announce details very soon. But well, let's just put it as anyone with $1 in their pocket will have access to Heartation. That is my promise.
Wow. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to
Yes,
this.
I'm really excited. So I really want the 1 million hearts on fire as everybody's vision, everybody's dream, not just mine. So in our final pillar, elevate. So Carol, how did you encourage and motivate yourself in such a challenging year, and how are you going to elevate yourself in the coming year?
Hmm. Well, for me, I've planned to continuously on a daily basis ask myself, what can I learn from this? You know, what can I learn from this? And also to activate the strengths that I have, right? So they are the appreciation of beauty and excellence, right? More action with more curiosity. I think that has been missing, in for me, the word curiosity, being curious, and then you actually joy, you inspire, and you actually spike that, being curious and then to explore, because you never know what you're going to get.
Yes.
And then exercise
Yes.
kindness. Yeah, this is something that I put it on as an objective for me to do that, be a bit more mindful and exercise that kindness towards myself and to others, being perspective, and also complete honesty, with myself. And this is where we talk about, being 100% being authentic with ourselves and with others too. So that is what I will be elevating, for the new year. I'm really excited. There isn't like a specific plan, but this is just something that I want to put it down onto my journal and to remind myself on a daily basis, this is what I'm going to be doing. And then what are the things that I can do in order to incorporate that into my daily living.
That is very, very important. That is really the key. I think that this is really beautiful. And Carol, picture you put it somewhere visible where you can see, so you can remind yourself. I'm going to hold you accountable to it now that I know about it. So you are not going to get away. Okay. So, what's your superpower name? It's Love Yourself, Carol, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Yes. Okay. I love the clarity and how specific you are. Like, yes, these are the strengths that I'm going to work on. I'm going to use this to elevate myself. Like, that feeling you get, right, when you have this clarity, you have the specific. I think it really changed the game, because you're not just talking in vague terms. You know exactly what you're talking about. You know exactly what you are placing your focus on, and wherever you place your focus on, that thing expand, right? So in this case, your strengths are going to really expand with your awareness. So as for myself, I think that time out where I could meditate, learn mindfulness skills properly, read up on self-compassion, really helped me this year. And the encouragement and the acknowledgement from my clients and coaches played a significant role to keep me going, especially when I'm feeling really drained and tired. This unexpected acknowledgement, they really put me up. So that's my reflection when it comes to what kept me going this year. So I think that this has worked very well for me. So in the new year, I want to keep on with these strategies. It's been amazing for me. In fact, the Heartation framework is born as a result of all these things that I have started to do faithfully, daily, every day, like baby steps with the intention of making it habitual. So, like what Carol, you say, everything starts small. So I always just wanted to do a little bit every day until it becomes a part of who I am. So from me taking care of myself, family, and then deciding to teach this techniques that has been useful to everyone in a practical and systematic way in the new year, I feel very excited to be able to have this opportunity to that I actually know very specific technique how to sustain my well-being every day and feeling stronger than ever, and to be able to elevate myself like that this way in a very sustainable manner, and to bring others along with me in the new year the Heartation way. So I think it's really exciting to be able to bring elevation to the next level, if it even make any sense.
Complete sense.
So there you have it. Wow, that's like our reflection for our year, and I feel really good having make time and think about all these things. Taking all the pressures from the year and then taking that along with us into the new year. So if you audience have also found this discussion useful, maybe it started you thinking about your year, we have a free PDF for you. If you like to have this reflection questions from the 6 pillar of the She Pathway, you can email us with at superpack.joy@gmail.com for this free PDF. And also, don't forget, there is a free copy of my autobiography as well, From Zero to Shakti, using the link below. So this is our last episode for the year, and we will catch you again somewhere in January. But before that, it's really time out and time for self-care and time for us with family. So thank you for supporting us all this time, and thank you for watching our episodes. It's really been very fun and meaningful, growing together and also learning from our expert guests that we brought in. I hope that you have also benefited and blossomed as a result of our episode. So stay tuned for the Strong and Sassy program that will be coming up in the new year. So any last words for our audience, Carol?
Well, this is just a little break, and I would like everybody to gear up, for the start of year 2021. And we will come back with a big bang, to lead you through, as Joy has said, right? Heartation. So I would say that, let's open our heart to receive and also with our heart to give and start year 2021 with a huge bang.
Beautiful. Okay, so happy season of love, everyone. Remember, stay strong and sassy. Let's come back stronger and sassier next year together. So in the meantime, we're going to end the show with our lotus pose. Thank you for watching.
Bye.
Bye.